What's going on, everyone? Travis here, and today I am joined by my good friend Josh Johns with Dunk Tank Studios. And just for context, so it's kind of weird having someone that does dunk tanks on a wedding podcast, but there's a lot more that Josh does just besides dunk tanks. So we're going to get into more of that kind of stuff, but we will have Josh talk about his dunk tanks. So I've known Josh since about 2008. We actually went to school together. We actually have kind of a funny way we met. If I recall, we were both looking for roommates because he was coming out of Michigan and I was coming out of Illinois, but like 3 hours south of where the school was. So they had this website you could go to and you basically try to find a roommate. So we actually met each other there, but he was going to start after me. But we still stayed in contact, which was pretty cool. And so I, like I was saying, I've known Josh since I don't know how long that is, but basically 2008, however long that is. I've kind of lost track, especially after last year. But yeah, he's been pursuing video production, and he's definitely very eager when it comes to getting into the next business trend and social media trend. He's been able to work on some really cool projects, and since kind of jumping into the dunk tank and inflatable world, he's every time I follow him, he's still pursuing, social media and really driving. So Josh can probably talk better about himself because he does love to talk. So Josh, why don't you introduce yourself?
All right. So basically, I started off in video production. I mowed lawns and ended up buying my first editor, which was Pinnacle 9. It was like you could have one track of video and then maybe and that was it. You could have a track above it. So I really learned how to I taught myself how to edit, and then I took a class in high school that allowed me to go further. And then Travis and I met at college, and it was a good experience. I learned a lot of things that I needed to learn and stuff like that. And then shortly after, I realized I could have learned almost everything on YouTube, which is really sad, but at the same time, because I have the piece of paper, it allows me to get into jobs that I don't often get into. They say, "Oh, well, you're a videographer. That's cool. Do you have a degree?" And so then you have to show them the paper. So primarily for me, my focus has always been adventure videos, not vlogging, but like Devon Soup Tramp or having fun, montage, compilations, videos. And so that's where wedding videography is the dancing portion and the telling the story, and that's a lot of fun and a lot of time to edit, I will say. But just having that ability to make people excited about an event that already happened and recap it, and then people enjoy it or they go back and they look for themselves in it is that's kind of what I've been focused on with that. And then doing dunk tanks, we do a lot of photography and video work with that for marketing purposes. And so I've really dabbled in the After Effects templates and getting things up on social media and stuff, which I know we'll talk about. So
how do you know what we're talking about? This is supposed to be. There's no prep before this, right? You just hopped on a call and that was it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I jumped onto a Discord and it worked out perfect.
Right. Yeah, that's all great. I mean, for context too, our school is no longer standing. It is actually just a pile of rubble, and so I'm not against school. I mean, school for a lot of degrees makes total sense, but it's kind of funny looking back on that. And this might be like a topic for another time. We won't go too far into this, but this might be a good topic for us to both have at some point. But just kind of is school important, for this kind of stuff? I mean, I think when we started, I mean, this is over 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
YouTube wasn't what it is now. I mean, it was becoming a very big thing. You could find content, but it's now it's just you can find any topic you want to know about on YouTube, or if you can't find it on YouTube, there's so many good courses out there that you could pay for that are a fraction of the price we had to pay to go to college, and it's so much more accelerated. I've done online courses, that I paid $500 for or something, And I probably learned more from that course than I did in my time in school. But you do get some great things out of going to school. I mean, obviously, Josh and I got to meet. You meet a lot of great people. It's kind of nice to have that umbrella that you're working under, where if you do a terrible project, you're not getting fired or you're not getting bad reviews. But those connections are important. And like even for myself, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today if I wouldn't have went to school. But at the same time, I don't think it's like a necessity anymore. I think there's a lot of great ways that you could get started and get going. But we won't get into that too much. We'll focus on the topic at hand today. So Josh, I know you don't do as many weddings as you used to, but when you do weddings, you're usually working with us. And one of the main reasons why we'll bring you out for a wedding is a same-day edit. And so I would love for you to just share with the people what a same-day edit is and why we do them and why they're extremely stressful and just anything else you want to share about those.
Oh man, I actually think they're less stressful than some of my other jobs that I've done. So I think we're doing pretty good now. All right, so same day edit. A lot of times, Travis and I will go out, and there might be 3 to 5 of us in a group, and like, it's great when we get the A team and the B team together, and we just go hard on a wedding, and we've got photo, we've got video, we've got drivers, my personal chauffeur. It's great. And so we'll start the day off, and I'll probably go out, get some drone footage, and then Travis is inside getting like detail shots of the dress or the rings, the shoes, all those sorts of things. And then with the photographer, and then I'll grab all the cards, I'll leave and go to the ceremony, and I'll start dumping all of the video onto a laptop. And I'll get to the ceremony, and I'll find a spot, plug the laptop in, and start like trying to process things, get some of the camera gear inside, because I would love it if we could show that photo of me at the whatever club it was, but I had an entire like $15,000 of gear just like strapped to me, or $30,000 of gear strapped to me. We should show that photo here.
Okay.
But we'll get all this gear, and we'll go into the wedding ceremony location, and we'll grab kind of like set up, get things prepped, meet whoever needs to be met, and then Travis and the photographer usually show up a little bit later. And so then during the ceremony, I'll sit back and I'll like go through all the stuff that we've captured so far, which is usually like your letters, your getting ready footage, and we usually pre-pick a track ahead of time that we'll put into the timeline. And then I'll just go through and just start kind of piecing together this whole thing. So as your day is like happening, right, I'm in the background making sure that the last event is documented and then put into the video. And then we do this during the ceremony. We do this during pictures. So typically what there is there's that time between the ceremony and the reception that the couple and the party go out and take photos. You got your family photo session, and then you got your destination photo sessions. And this is oftentimes like when they go around Chicago and stuff. So then Travis will go out and he'll shoot all of that stuff. I'll go to the venue that they're having the reception at, and I'll just start going to town on editing and chopping up the remainder that I'm missing. I'll also go in and grab wedding vows and different things like that we kind of feel like made the video what it was. If it's just like, hey, they made the standard vows, maybe we don't use them. Other times people have used like really cool, like unique to them vows. And so we grab that, put it in there, and make the audio like crystal clear and stuff. And then we go, and when Travis gets back, he sends me all the footage. We grab a couple shots, and maybe like a drone shot of the reception or whatever. And we piece all of this together. And then by the end of dinner, I've scarfed down my food. Travis is editing, and then we switch spots and go through and show a video just before the dance floor opens up. And Travis said it really well one time. I don't even know if you remember saying this or not, but you mentioned that a lot of times there's people running around with cameras, and we're not invisible people. We have gear that's 7 foot tall. We have tripods. We have glide cams. We have lights. People see us, not intentionally, but we're all around. Usually we're shooting 3 to 4 cameras. So there's a lot of equipment, a lot of stuff happening. And so at halfway through your reception to show a video that recaps part of the day that these people didn't see. It really gives it kind of like that like tearjerker moment, and kind of brings the whole day kind of cohesively together, and then people just dance the night away and have a blast. And I think I don't think I've ever seen a bride just been like, "Oh, that was great." You know, usually it's Megan, I need you.
You got so
all-
excited there, your mic cut out.
So usually they're like jumping around and like, "Oh my goodness, this was so amazing." They're like, they always give Travis a hug and like, "Oh my goodness, I missed this." But it's one of those things where it's the highlight of a bride's day to do the wedding, really. It's highlight of their year probably, but they get to be with all their friends and family. And so to share that moment with them, they really get this really unique perspective, I would say, on the day. And so I think that sums up most of my day. And then usually we change shoes and have to drive home because our dress shoes are not comfortable.
Yeah, that's great. I want to back up. There was one part you're talking about where you're kind of talking about like the things that are kind of missed through the day that they get to see. So, a lot of times it's kind of like unclear of like to a couple, like why they would ever want to do a same day edit. And for context, like I wouldn't say we do a lot. It's usually just a few a year they'll happen. Now we do often do like next day edits, and so it'll be kind of like a teaser trailer that we'll put together that's like just like a minute long basically. And so within that, you have some of the best shots, just kind of like a movie trailer. If like the next Avengers movie is coming or whatever it is, like they'll show little pieces but they don't reveal everything. And so it's kind of that general concept. Now with like the same day edit though, like this is like a full-fledged film of like almost the first like part of the day. So there's a lot moving on. Like when I do the next day teaser, that's not that hard. I just wake up next morning, throw some of the best clips in that I kind of remembered we took, put some cool music, drop in our logo, and boom, we're kind of done. For the same day edit, we want to tell a story and we want to show things that maybe got missed through the day. So what's kind of interesting with a couple is, they actually miss a lot from the day, especially the bride, because they're not there during those moments. So like when we do the same day edit, we always encourage them to do letters. So they read letters, like they basically swap letters with each other and they read those out loud. So we'll kind of use those to drive the piece. Definitely they're not seeing that, from the other side. So, like the bride's getting ready at her house or her hotel, groom's getting ready at his house or his hotel, and they don't even see each other that whole first part of the day. So that's all new footage to them that they'll get to see on the wedding day. And I think that's what's really excited about it, because typically what would happen is they wouldn't get to see those moments till like a month later maybe, or even longer, mattering on how long the turnaround time is. But they're getting to see it that day, which I think is really exciting, and it kind of brings the full story and the full day full circle for the couple. I just said full like 3 times, but it brings it all full circle for them, and they get to kind of live in that moment the day of. And so, you have that moment, and then the other moment that a lot of times we don't think about is when everyone's coming down the aisle. The bride doesn't really get to see any of that. Like she's usually locked away with her dad waiting to come out. So the groom kind of gets to see everyone come out, but the bride doesn't. So that's another moment she gets to see, and even getting to see her groom's reaction. Some of these like Catholic churches that we go to, it's like a mile walk, like it's like an eternity that they're walking down. And so for her to see that very first moment of like his reaction to her is like priceless, but a lot of times she doesn't even get to see that in person. It won't be till the film. So to be able to see that night and to have that is super cool. And so when we do a same day edit, typically we are looking to capture the prep, the ceremony, the photo session, and then we usually kind of end it right there, because we've found it to be kind of weird. Like if you're showing the reception while you're in the reception, there's something kind of like weird about that. So we usually try to focus the edit on the story of like the beginning of the day, and then kind of leave it as like a cliffhanger type thing of like to be continued. And then when we do their full short film, well, that's when we'll drop in the extra stuff. So
one thing that we actually both have forgotten to talk about, which is probably actually one of my favorites, is the first look.
Yeah, the first look is a huge thing that can be great for it too.
At the church, in traditional weddings, it would happen at the church. The bride walks down the aisle and stuff. But a lot of times, if you do like wedding ceremony at like noon. You've got, a few hours to get ready, and then you've got a whole bunch of people waiting. And then you've got this big chunk of time before dinner happens. And so I've really enjoyed the flow of the day when we've switched out to the actual first look, where brides and just the bride and the groom will go off to a secret location, and the groom looks away, and the bride comes up and like taps him on the shoulder or whatever. And we often find some of the coolest locations. I think probably my personal favorite, most risky, most chance of death here was when we were in the Western. It was in the Target parking lot. I had to take the drone up, and we had to launch from the fourth floor of the deck, and I had to fly around the building and to get this awesome like shot. And then Travis and David were on the balcony also filming that first look, and it just made it so cool. And nobody, people aren't sitting there like, oh, I've seen this hotel from the sky before. Like you drive up to this 15-story building, you aren't seeing it from that perspective. You're seeing it from, oh, it's really tall, and then you just go in. And so it's a really cool way to provide a new perspective on some places as well.
So first look, oh yeah, so I think it was the West End, not Western. Yes. I think Western is a budget hotel, actually. It was the West End, and they were connected to a Harry Carey's. And you touched on the drone thing, and I think that's what's really cool about the same-day edit is not only is it really special for the couple, but it's like really cool for their guest. So we try to use a lot of kind of money shots, I guess I would call it, inside of it. So like there was one, I think it was actually one of the first ones we did, but the groom had a cigar and I filmed it in a high frame rate, so he's like blowing it. And it's not like the most artistic shot or anything, but like the guests got such a kick out of it, because one, it was in the morning, so no one else had saw that. And then two, they know they like cigars and stuff. So it's just kind of funny, everyone's like, oh, look at him, look at the groom. And, and the drone shots do a lot too. Like, you were talking about the same-day edit, but we've used the drone shots like when the bride and groom come out of the church too, like when they do their formal exit. And that always wows people too. And it's funny because like the bride and groom, they know that we have a drone and they know they have these things, but a lot of times they're so caught up in the day, they don't realize what we're doing. So it's kind of a surprise to them too. They're like, oh, they had the drone up then. Like they had no idea, even though all their guests like probably heard it and they're all like pointing at it and stuff. The bride and groom are so caught up in the moment that they didn't even like know it was happening. So
the other argument for that is usually I'm the one flying the drone, and I am not flying right here. I am usually flying in a beautiful like over the top shot. Remember when you had your Sony drone, and I think it was the same way.
Oh, the 3DR solo, not the Sony.
And you were like so close to hitting the steeple of the church.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I hope.
Yeah, now we have avoidance detection and all sorts of things. We could pretty much do whatever we want. But yeah, back then it was a lot different world with drones. So
I think that one was our first same-day edit that we were surprising them with. So they didn't know it was coming. They didn't know we had a drone. And I think it was even in the video, like the husband turns and he's like, oh, they have a drone. Like, I didn't see it. We're like, yeah, we didn't.
I think that's something too. Like if you're a videographer and you do these same day edits, I think it's good to ask the couple if they want it to be a surprise thing. Like obviously if they're hiring you for it, it's no longer a surprise for them, but they could always keep it as a surprise for their guests because when you start setting up a big projector and a projector screen and stuff, people are like, what's going on? Like they probably think it's just like a photo montage or something. And then all of a sudden this, beautiful drone shot opens up of like the church and they're seeing video footage from the day, they're going to be like blown away. So it's kind of a, I would say for any like videographers that do these, definitely offer that as an option to the couple before they kind of announce it to everyone, because I think it'll be more impactful if it's a surprise as opposed to, just like, hey, we're doing a same day edit, because a lot of people might not even know what that is, and so so that's cool. But then also, say I have some weddings every now and then where I'm mostly actually talking to the mom or I'm talking to the planner, and I don't really talk to the couple much. So sometimes I'll bring it up to them and I'll be like, hey, we offer this service. It is going to add a more of an expense to the package, but this would blow the couple away. Like, this would blow your daughter away or your son away or whoever it is. Do you want to do this? Or I'll kind of mention it to the planner and be like, hey, I don't know if you're talking to the mom, but maybe you can like hint this to the mom because she could, maybe add this on, and this is going to be like an extra kind of wow thing. And this could be like her gift to the couple, like sometimes they want to gift something to them that's like extra special or something that helps their day. I mean, this is a really cool thing that they could gift to the bride and groom. Like, boom, here's a surprise, here's your wedding, basically. You're watching your wedding as it played out that day. And so I think that's a really cool thing. Now, obviously, this is all great information for a videographer, but there's other people that would be listening to this that are not videographers. So I wouldn't mind kind of brainstorming with you, like why maybe it's beneficial for, other wedding vendors to be recommending videographers that do same-day edits, or if there's like types of services those other vendors could have that would have the same kind of wow factor that like a videographer would have with the same day edit.
Well, let's first go with one of the headaches that I think you and I have dealt with so many times, and that is wedding venues who don't want to have white walls often throw off our color grading skills. But if you have a venue that has this beautiful area that we could actually do a projector and a screen and show it off, that's like, it's really unique for that location. And so I think a lot of people in a way enjoy that ease and convenience on both the wedding planner at the venue and and us as a team or any other videography team that does same day edits, instead of having to bring in projectors and cables and plan everything. But some of those things, like, so my sister's a wedding planner at a local spot, and so they have a golf course attached. So if you're getting married, the guys can go play around to golf for free. They just have to schedule the tee time. So having unique things like that. Maybe you're in a networking group, like you're in a BNI or a NTI or whatever, and you could look around that group and be like, hey, I've got a restaurant that's in here, or I've got a unique couple of different people that I have access to in my circle. Maybe I'll work with them to kind of do like that super group or whatever. But like, hey, if you're coming in to do a wedding here, we have a discount at this location. You can go and hang out at this bar or this restaurant for a few hours before. And us guys, we need 1 hour to get ready. That's it, really. The rest of the day, it's just hang out. We've played NHL hockey before. We've gone, like, I think the one group, they went putt-putting, just different things like that the guys can do beforehand. So if you have stuff for the guys to do, then they can go off and do it as groomsmen. It's his last day being a single guy, hurrah, let's go have fun, and then let's come to the wedding and actually have a good time. So I think a lot of times using your network to really boost your quality of service options for people is huge. And you have to think, these people aren't necessarily like, oh, I'm going to get married in this city, and I know that 5 feet away from this place is a really, really good restaurant. Or, down the road just a little bit is a really good barbecue place, and the guys love meat, So having places like that might benefit you, as well as, people are booking your wedding. Hey, if we have a hotel attached, so here's a facility that does entertainment, the axe throwing and the all the stuff that we go to, main events type events, and just different things that you can offer, and inflatables are always an option, right?
Yeah, so I guess like kind of what you're saying is like kind of using, even though like maybe, so say like I'm a DJ, and I can't put together a video edit of the day because it's like I'm setting up my booth and all of that kind of stuff, but knowing a videographer that does that kind of amplifies what you do, because like if someone comes to you first, they just booked their venue and now they're booking their DJ because the music is very important to them and they haven't even gone down the rest of the list. they're going to look to you like, hey, do you know any photographers, videographers? And if you're like, yes, I know some, but in particular, I know this one guy and he does these same day edits, and like he basically plays your wedding like the day of, like you got to talk to him. And that's going to kind of emphasize you, because like you're bringing them value that maybe another DJ wouldn't have. You know, another DJ might refer a videographer to them and they might be great at what they do, but this kind of extra service, it's going to kind of boost you, because it's like, you know, someone that does something like special. And then going even further than that, when the day rolls around, you know, for us, we rely a lot on the DJ for the same day edit. Like we have to connect with them ahead of time, because we need to use them for the audio, because we want it to sound really good when we're playing it in front of all these people. And so that becomes a thing for you, where it's like, you could even talk to them and be like, yeah, I help them put it together. Like, where this is an example of how we work as a team, because that's really important to bride and grooms too, is knowing that their vendors are going to get along. Like, I can't tell you how many weddings when I started, when I got going, I didn't know anyone. Like, you know, you have the DJ who doesn't tell you when things are happening, you know, so then you miss stuff because he didn't tell you what was going on. And then you have the photographer who's like award-winning photographer, you know, and so like they want all the shots, they don't want you to like get anything, and you run into things like that, and it doesn't help anyone. Like, it doesn't help you, it doesn't help the bride and groom. And so bride and grooms want to know that, you know, you are either working with people you've worked with before, or that you can get along with other people. So if you're, you know, this DJ, you're automatically plugging a videographer that you love, they do same day edits, you're explaining that process of how you do the audio for them and you play the audio for them. They're already gonna be like, wow, this is great, you know, because these people work together and they work as a team. And so I think that's where it's beneficial. But there are, you know, like kind of going further than that, I think for some vendors, not all, there are ways that you could still kind of do that instant gratification. Because at the end of the day, what the same day edit is, it's instant gratification. You know, we're trying to get in front of grandma's bad cell phone videos. You know, like we want to be first. We want to be the first thing they see of their wedding and set the bar high with that. And so, you know, obviously I think the the most, you know, obvious one is a photographer. There was one photographer I worked with one time. What he would do is he would, during lunch, I mean, not lunch, dinner, he would get on his iPad, he'd connect his camera to his iPad, and he'd find like 20 of the best photos that kind of tell the story of the day. So a little bit of prep, a little bit of the ceremony, a little bit of the first look. And he'll put them all on his iPad, he'll do some quick editing, and then he would either ask the venue if he could connect to like a big screen TV, or he would just put his iPad on the bar area. So every time someone was coming up to get a drink, there's his iPad, and it's playing photos that he took, and he had like a little watermark, and he put some business cards right next to it. And I thought that was so cool, you know, and it's obviously it's a lot easier than what we're doing with the video. Like, there's really no excuse not to do something like that. And it's just gonna help people get a better idea what you do, because, you know, we're talking about the instant gratification, but it's also helping couples and their guests visualize what you're actually doing. Mm-hmm. You know, there's so many times where the uncle or someone comes up to me and he's like, you guys are doing a great job. And I'm always like, you have no idea what I'm doing right now. You know, like, you have no idea what I've shot. Like, I might have like not ever hit record once. I might have like lost my SD card. You have no idea, but they have that perceived value that you are doing something well if you're running around and you're doing your job. So then to kind of back that up with like, here's what the photos looked like, and then they're gonna be like, wow. Like, and lastly, I think it's beneficial for the venue. You know, like you were talking about the Westin. Now I'm gonna keep wanting to say Western. You were talking about the Westin and how, you know, we had these cool shots of the drone and stuff. That was where they got ready, but it was also where they had their reception. Well, actually, their ceremony was there too. So everything took place at this venue. So we were basically showing off that venue in the best light possible. And yeah, I know the guests are there and they're seeing it with their own eyes, but you know, they're basically seeing like, they see some of the imperfections sometimes too that comes with being in an actual place, whereas we're only showing the best of this place. So it just gets them more excited about it. And if anything, it gets the couple more excited about like, yeah, we chose the right venue. You know, this was the best venue for us. And so that's a benefit too, you know, as a wedding venue owner, to be able to be referring someone that does same day edits. Like, it's gonna grow the value of that venue that you have.
So to double back on it, so I really like what you're talking about with the slideshow on the iPad at the bar. I feel like that's a non-invasive way to show off some of your work before, and so people are like, "Oh, that's such a cool shot," you know. And how often are you standing up at that bar for a long time because everybody wants to take at the same time. So that's a really cool concept. And then, yeah, like one of the things that I think you've mentioned a lot, and even for your wedding, like you knew the people at the Seville. And so because you knew them, you were able to you knew exactly what you wanted, which, I mean, granted, you and I, we've shot over 100 weddings. So we know kind of what we wanted when it came to wedding time. But having that knowledge and having that relationship already built, it makes it so much easier for the day of. We know we're walking into the Seville. Okay, like we'll get these couple shots. Outside, this is going to make the building look the best. We'll grab these because there's power lines here. We want to not take up the drone right here. And, it's just for us as vendors to walk into a venue that we are familiar with and we like shooting at. It's like a no-brainer. It's so much fun. And a lot of times they're no different than us. They're all employees working at the same place, and you have your preferred and stuff like that. And so then you refer people back and forth. And, sometimes the bride comes up to you and says, "Hey, I want a wedding of 500 people." Obviously when I sit down for my wedding and it's like, "Hey, I want 2,000 people, Travis, where do I need to go?" What am I looking at? I can go to Travis and I can ask him this question. He could say, "Oh, well, these are really cool places." Or, "Hey, Travis, I want a barn wedding." And he's like, "Oh, well, then you want to go to these places. These are the goods and the bads." There's some barn weddings that are really cool, and they have a limit of 100 people because that's how many people fit in the venue. And so you may love the location, but you want to cut your guest list down to 100. And so a lot of times venues, DJs, photographers, videographers, they know a lot of these things and they can help you find those things quicker a lot of times. And then also, you mentioned working together. And one of the things that I love is when it's photo and video from Bellatiamo. It's like we are flying around each other, like synchronized though. Like I'm waiting for David to take the photo and then I go flying in, or David's taking the photo low, so I'm flying in over top of him. And, we don't use our audio on our cameras, so we can talk all we want. David's taking photos, so there's not a lot. So during those times, like we're communicating with each other. We're laughing. We're having a good time. The bride's having a good time. The groom's having a good time. The party's having a great time. And so when you see that cohesiveness in a team, that is definitely like you get a very positive experience. Because I know that David's not going to attack my shot. Like he's not going to be like, "Okay, time's up, my turn to be in the shot," because David wants my product to look just as good as I want his product to look. And so that is one of the things that I love with working with this team is just the flexibility we have and the working togetherness that we have it's so much fun. And the communication, it's a big thing. And we've worked with people where communication was a little bit different. And I've been at weddings where I didn't miss like a whole bunch of stuff, but it was the first dance and I got halfway in, which for me, that package was only a montage. So I didn't need like the whole dance or anything, but it would have been nice to have been told, "Hey, we're doing the first dance now. Would you guys like to come out?" Like the photographer missed it and I missed the opening sequence just because they decided to start. It's like, so, having that communication is huge, and it's your wedding day. You want to have it captured. You want to have it remembered. So, yeah,
You had mentioned you've been single for 31 years. And so
yeah,
I think part of the reason for that is you definitely, you have a hustle mentality. And so, whether it's when you're kind of pursuing video and now you're kind of more pursuing the dunk tank and kind of that industry, you definitely have a hunger for what you're doing. And so whether that's, doing the dunk tank company or steak, you're always hungry to kind of keep going and keep doing whatever you're doing. And so,
right.
so I would love for you to just kind of talk a little bit about kind of that transition that you had. And I know that dunk tanks aren't necessarily like a wedding vendor, but I think there's a lot of good things we can kind of take away from just your business know-how and like how you've gone from kind of one business to another, what kind of things you're able to bring over, what you weren't able to bring over, and then just kind of like how you've marketed that and kind of grown your presence with that.
Yeah. So I will say that I believe 99.9% of all rental companies do not start with dunk tanks. So that was the first flaw. The second flaw is most of them don't have a bachelor's in film and video production. That's the second flaw. All right. So basically, started out doing video, got a gig, and I was like, this is great. But the problem is I'm limited to my time. I need to find something that's an asset. And so, I didn't think stock market. I didn't think any of that stuff because to me, the people in my life were like, stocks are hard. Don't get into it. It's very volatile now. But it just was a giant unknown, So I went in and I bought a dunk tank because I was like, hey, I know how to work a dunk tank company. I rented out inflatables and stuff like that early on, and I saw a need that dunk tanks were not doing. And so I think that's the first thing that you got to do is find a need that the market isn't being filled with right now. Now, I didn't exactly do all of my market research, so there was that. But my goal was to become one of the best dunk tank marketing strategies because I wanted to help businesses grow. And so I knew a dunk tank attracted an audience. I knew a dunk tank typically had people loiter at a location and people had a good time with it. So my thought was, I'm going to start this dunk tank rental business, but it's going to be an entertainment business. It ended up flopping because the people that I wanted to reach didn't want the people loitering at their location. And then I got people all of a sudden asking me to start renting out their dunk tanks. And I was like, oh, well, I guess we got to figure that out. So we quickly, my mom and I, in a matter of 2 weeks, figured out how to rent out a dunk tank with insurance and all that sort of stuff. And always, and I mean, Travis has it, I had it. It's insurance. We all hate paying it, but it's there to protect you. If a light falls on somebody, it's going to be a shock to your bank account. Like you need to have this insurance. And if you're a bride looking for somebody, see if they have insurance. Because if that equipment falls on one of your bridesmaids or on you or your groom, like the gentleman that ran a drone into the guy's face, it's stitches and everything like that. The hospital visits, I can't have my wedding today, things like that. You really, really got to be cautious on that. And some vendors don't have the finances to pay that back or don't have the ability to. And then if they're an LLC, they can just belly up and see you later. So, insurance is very critical, I guess would be the right word. For venues and for places. Now, venues obviously have insurance, but for wedding photographers and videographers and stuff like that, if they're doing this professionally, they definitely want to have the insurance coverage. And it's safety for them, safety for you as a bride and groom. So I made sure that my rental company has insurance, and that's one of the things I promote about it is we have insurance, and it's not cheap, but it's cheaper than if somebody were to like break an arm. Like I'm not paying those hospital bills, the insurance company is. And thankfully we've gone 8 years now without any sort of like hurts minus a couple scrapes or like kid came down wrong and, landed on their arm a little bit, sore, put it in a sling and it's fine, but no broken bones, none of that stuff, which is great. And so, we kind of started with that and we started building dunk tank rentals and we built it up. And then my background's video. My heart has actually been video. My hatred has been towards editing, which is ironic because I do all the same day edits. I'm an extrovert at heart, and so I want to be with people and I want to be out there. But one of my skill sets is actually editing, and so I spend a lot of time editing in my office and like alone in the dark with 4 monitors lit up and stuff. But I ended up making like this really cool video and it attracted some people. And so then I got investors into my company because they're like, hey, we really like what you have going on. And we started building it up and building it up and building it up. And so then we started doing the research on what rides make the most amount of money and this, that, and the other thing. And so we started developing a lot more and doing a lot more of like the market wide research instead of just focusing entirely on dunk tanks. And then we built the support staff for inflatables, which is ridiculous. You have to move 600-pound inflatables. It's crazy. But, just having that mindset of moving through this, I always kind of was like, I'm going to go back to video. I'm going to go back to video. And what really got me away from video, which was a different thing. So I'm in a completely different market. My market's very depressed. People would pay me more for a dunk tank rental than they would pay me for video. And video actually required more work, and dunk tanks did not. And also the other side of this was dunk tanks it's a company that you can grow and you can build yourself out of. So if you think about it, when I'm editing video, I can't work on anybody else's project. I maybe can watch the stock market, but that's about it. Like, I'm focused on this project. When I drop off a dunk tank, it's making me money while I'm gone. And so somebody rented it for the whole day. I got paid. I'm out. And so that was kind of where I was going with the dunk tank, was like, I wanted to build it to a point where it was somebody else was enjoying it. I was just bringing in money. And so that was kind of my idea behind it. It takes a lot more work than you think, especially running a startup that way. But the other side of it was J. John Studios had a very hard time expanding because it was very much my creative eye, my camera skills, and my editing techniques. Could I train somebody? Probably. Were there people that wanted to be trained, but were there people that could be trained for the price and stuff like that? It was a bit hard. At the time when I started J. John Studios, I was still living actually at my parents' house. So it's like, do I really want this person coming over and editing in the bedroom that I had it in, or in the basement? And do my parents want random strangers just showing up to the house and editing? So it made it very hard to expand J. John Studios, whereas the Dunk Tank Company had the ability. It was a product-based business. It wasn't a service-based business, and I could move through that. It's probably a very long explanation for...
Well, that's what we got editing for, right? There's a lot of, I think where you kind of ended was really good, because that's something I think a lot of us in the wedding industry, especially if we're doing services, because I think, like for what you're doing, it lines up very well with someone maybe that does a photo booth, or, something that's kind of more like that, where they don't maybe necessarily need to be there, but they would need to hire people to kind of manage it while they're doing something else. And so I think it's important to kind of define what you want your business to be. And obviously it can change over time, but do you want to become kind of the face of your business? And like you were saying with J. John Studios, where you kind of had to be a part of everything. And I have that kind of happen in my own, where we are more boutique. So it's like they're kind of expecting me. And even if I'm not shooting, I'm still kind of supposed to be there to hold their hand. Like, that's just kind of part of the brand. But that can also mean that you could probably charge more, because you're more of like a desired
Your
product.
commodity.
Yeah. It's supply and demand. And if there's only one of you and you have this unique product that you offer, they're going to want you, and so they'll pay whatever it takes. But that can also be hard, because that's a whole different market. Like I would say most people are probably in that kind of like lower budget, mid-range budget. Like most bride and grooms are kind of in that range, and they're probably not going to be able to afford your services. So kind of the alternative is you could create a product that's very good, but then find a way to have others kind of running it for you. So like, for example, if you are a DJ, maybe you want to focus on doing the DJing, and you are that DJ, and you're the DJ they hire. But when it comes to the photo booth, that could really be anyone. So you could also possibly have separate other photo booths being hired out to other weddings that same day, and you could basically have like multiple things going on. And that could be the same for anything. Obviously, I think the more you get into the creative realm, like the photographer, videographer, that can be very hard, because there's a certain quality control. And I know me as a creative, it's hard to let that go sometimes. But if you are doing something that is a little more, not to like downplay it, but more like button pushing, like a photo booth, I think there's a lot of opportunity to turn that into a business that's larger than yourself, and you're just kind of overlooking these other people that you hire on that are going out to the wedding, and you're just making sure that they're pushing the right buttons and everything like that.
And one
So really, when you start your business, I think it's very important to define that. And I know some people sometimes they'll start on the creative side and they don't like turning down the other business. I mean, even myself, that happens sometimes. So they'll slowly start forming maybe like a associate brand or like the B team, and it's like it's still a really good product, but it's a little more cookie cutter and a little bit more formula to it because you can't reinvent the wheel every time if you're trying to train other people because they're just going to be lost every time. Like if I, like with our associate team, if like every time I was like, hey, this is like the new camera I'm using now, and I want this is like what I'm doing now for my weddings, you're gonna lose them every time because they're gonna have to relearn, and you're gonna be spending so much time teaching them the new things you want them to do instead of just kind of having this certain style and certain formula that you follow every time that they then follow, and you just kind of update them as time goes on. So yeah, I think a lot of that can apply to the wedding business, which is good. Now, kind of looking back. I know sometimes they say like our mistakes build who we become, but like, would you say that there's any things like maybe you would have done differently if you would have known what you know now back then?
I mean, I definitely have failed a lot more, which has given me so many more opportunities. So one of the big things that we did was we branched out into online Twitch and Mixer and YouTube live streams and Facebook gaming and stuff like that. And so I learned, which scared the crap out of me, but I learned how to do live streaming, and I have a new computer because of live streaming. And um, using the understanding I have of how to get things out to the market and how quickly I need to turn things around and the volume at which I need to produce content at, and really to produce content for social media in general, I was able to better understand a lot of the issues that were coming up with technology. And so um, I look back and I say, okay, let's say first of all I didn't go to college. Let's just say I didn't go to college. Like I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have been shooting in Chicago. I wouldn't have done so many weddings. I probably would have been, that I'd be the person in the video camera market. Like woo, I wouldn't be DSLR. I wouldn't be all that. Had I not worked at the retail store that I really didn't like doing, but I liked helping people, I wouldn't have met the one guy that I worked with 3 times and asked me to help him on a video project and then handed me a contract that ended up being like 40 grand in sales. And I wouldn't have known that. So, yeah, we make mistakes all the time. We learn. If you don't learn from your mistakes, you're going to repeat them. So that's a huge thing. Uh, I I would say it's oftentimes for us. We are where we are because of where we've been and the choices we made from that. We're not like I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow. I didn't save anything yesterday, and I'm buying stuff today. It's like you can't do that. You have to make these steps to getting better. You have to build residual income. You have to build uh, other businesses that will pay you money, whether it's consistently or throwing it into stocks and long-term mutual funds and things. But a lot of us we don't have like the time to do that, or we don't know, so we're scared of it, so we don't do it. And so I've found that oftentimes when I have pushed myself too far, I have learned so much more. Um, and so because of that, I'm not. There's that. I don't know if you've seen it, but that nice little. You start here with no knowledge, and then you instantly become an expert, and then you realize that there's a whole lot more, and then you become the expert over there. Um, Typically, my personality is, whoop, oh, this is too much. I'm out. Like, I made it over the hump, but I'm out. Um, it's just I've lost my interest for it because now something else is cool. Very ADD ish mindset. But just having that learning, taking the time to learn, becoming knowledgeable in it. I can't program something in Unity efficiently, but I've spent an hour or two on Unity tutorials to say, oh, it's similar to After Effects, Photoshop, and Illustrator. They just added gravity as one of the things that you can do. And so you can take your skills from one set. Maybe if you know Photoshop, you understand color correction or you understand color theory. So you could go somewhere and you could work with them on color theory. There's auditoriums now that have colored lights all over the place and they don't know what to do. They're like, hey, let's put this color and this color together. And we're like, yeah, no, that was a bad idea. Everyone asks me why I'm always like purple and blue. And I'm like, because they're very similar. They're not so drastically different, like red and green or something like that. And it's a very calming color. It's very loyal. Blue is actually my like hex color. If you go based off of your birthday, blue's one of my hex colors. So, but I found that blue was always like too dark, so I added the purple to like lighten it up a little bit. So, but then like you can give off these really cool product shots. You can take your skill set that you've learned from other places and you can put it into just different things. Like you can help someone with their social media posts. You can help people on Etsy. You can help people on Amazon and eBay that are selling products and wanting to have a better look. You can go into a boutique and help them out. So you have skills in areas that you probably don't realize you have skills in. And so I've learned that my live streaming skills allowed me to, when coronavirus hit, my state went into lockdown, and my first phone call was to my senior pastor who ignored it. And then I left him a voicemail and he texted me back like 6 hours later. But he was too busy trying to figure out what to do with church on Sunday. And I called him and I'm like, hey, you have all the technology at the church to live stream. Let's go. And then I put around me the right people. And I said, hey, I'm going to take an hour of your Saturday and I'm going to ruin your Sunday, but we're live streaming because we want to have church. And that 20 hours a week that I did for like 8 weeks meant a lot to a lot of people. And had I not stepped up, I don't know that a lot of other people would have done the same. And because they have different skill sets. Now, I'm not organized by any means. My cables were thrown all over the floor for the first 2 weeks while I figured out where all the cameras were going. But having that like experience from live streaming with Dunk Tank Company has allowed me to then build the video side for other people, for churches, and impact other people, and build residual income through Patreon and other places like that. And so I think a lot of it's just you learn from your mistakes, you learn from other people, you do research, and you really dive in and dig deep, because that's the only way you're gonna learn better from somebody who's been there and done that. And then you get the ability to skip that phase. You now know the answer and you can go to the next step. And that's why having a mentor is always a huge thing. That's why having friends like Travis and I, we'll talk for an hour. Like I think we went like 2 months without talking, and then we called each other in like 3-hour phone conversation about this, that, the other thing. How do we do things? We had been juggling so much work that we just didn't have time. And then, like he calls me and he's like, "Hey, I'm having problems with my Sling Studio. You got suggestions?" And so then I look at what I've got and I'm like, well, you could do these 15 different things and maybe one of those would end up working for him. And then he goes back and tries it and then it solves the solution. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's all great. Well, I think we'll start wrapping it up here, Josh.
Okay.
I think we covered a lot of great stuff. To kind of recap, we went from same-day edits to, what you got going on with Dunk Tank to all sorts of other fun things. So,
we didn't talk about one thing, which I think we need to discuss, okay?
Right.
So, we always joke around about weddings and dunk tanks, and everyone's like, no. Okay. Your reception is supposed to be fun. It is a time of celebration. It is a time of just excitement, and people want to be excited when you're excited. And so I think we really need to remember that at a reception, the guests want to have a good laugh. They want to have a good time. Throw a dunk tank in.
Why not, right?
exactly. No, but I think, remember that the day is yours, but remember that people are there celebrating with you. And, I've been to plenty of events that are Christmas parties or whatever for work. And one guy, he sat down and he's like, if I don't want to drink and I don't want to gamble, I've got nothing to do. And it's like, that's an interesting way of looking at it. They rented a casino hall or whatever for that. But, people at your wedding, they are there because they love and support you, or somebody in their life loves and supports you and they had to come with. But they're there because they love and support you, and they want to rejoice when you're rejoicing, and they want to be there for you. They're your friends, they're your support structure, and you should be able to rely on them for a long time.
So Josh, again, thanks for joining in and doing this and taking some time out of your day. And before we kind of wrap up here, I would love for you to just share where people can follow along and see what you're doing and just connect with you if they want to, or if they have any other questions, they'll be able to ask you questions.
All right. Well, I guess the best way to go about it is actually if you go to thedunktankco.com/linktree, LINKTREE. I stole the name. I just made it on my own website, but that has all of my socials. That has everything that I'm doing, at least with Dunk Tank Company. Personally, I've thought about updating my personal account, and then I realized that I'm in charge of 7 companies' social media accounts. I don't really care to keep up with my own. You can watch me on everybody else's channels. But check that out. We do weekly videos. We have TikTok. We have Instagram. We do what we can, and we try and stay on top of it. Also, if you're a business and you're like, how do I stay involved in social media? How do I keep my stuff going? I mean, people like Travis is key, right? You get a videographer, and maybe they're not going to sell you the rights to the photos and stuff like that. But, getting the watermark and getting things like that up there on your website is huge. And so I challenge you as a business owner, if you want to see your business grow, work on getting more content on social media and just being out there. It's not a lot of time. It's just a matter of having the content. So, and use people like Travis to sit down and make some videos for the banquet hall, or, hey, I really want a video that shows our grounds during springtime. Like that's huge. I'm plugging Travis.
I appreciate that. I appreciate
if you're near Michigan, you can call me. If you're not, then call Travis. So, but I mean, even like, I think a lot of it comes down to like, so let's jump back and take a look at your outdoor photography and video skills and stuff like that. Like, you have so many lenses and so many things of people's property that just make the golf course look gorgeous, or make, the sunset just the right color. And, a lot of that's color correction, but a lot of that has to do with the quality of camera. And Travis has amazing quality of gear. And so using that to benefit is like, it's going to benefit you. Yeah, it's going to help Travis. It's kind of nice, but it's going to benefit you as a venue. You're going to look really, really good in that light.
So yeah, again, thank you, Josh, for joining. It was a pleasure talking with you. We'll probably do another one. Like I was talking about the school thing, I think that's kind of an interesting concept. But I just want to ask, if you're listening or watching, please, we're kind of new to doing this, so please let me know any topics you would like us to cover. And let me know any feedback you have, anything you think that would make this better. I don't really need feedback that makes it worse, because we don't want it to be worse, we want it to be better. But any feedback you have that you think would help make this better, and any topics you want to see us cover, please feel free to DM me or reach out. You can find me on any social media platform, just Travis Heberling. Most places it's just at TRHEBERLING, or TR in my last name. So again, thank you for joining. Josh, thank you for being a part of this. And until next time, we'll see you around.